The playoffs are here. Let's talk about them. Alright guys, the playoffs start this Saturday. And in honor of that, I'm not only going to predict the wild card round, I'm going to predict how the playoffs will go and who will win the Super Bowl. Let's see if these predictions are right. Alright, we're going to start on the AFC side, then we're going to go to the NFC side, and then I'll talk about who I think will win the Super Bowl. So the first game I want to talk about is Tennessee going to New England. Tennessee, they had an unusual route to the playoffs. It looked like they were dead on arrival to start the year, but then they make a quarterback change. Derrick Henry just went off, led the league in rushing. Ryan Tannehill looked like a whole new player, and they were able to get to the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. And for New England, well, they were off to a hot streak. They went undefeated through the first 8 games. Then, the second half of the season did not go as expected. They just were not the same team. The defense, it was great. The problem was the offense. The receiving corps just wasn't up to par. Brady just wasn't Brady. And the running game, it was up and down. Now with all that, I say New England gets to win at home. They're pretty much unbeatable when they play in the playoffs at home. They've only lost 3 games since Brady was there at home. 2 were to the Ravens and 1 were to the Jets. I just don't see Tennessee doing that. But I do expect this game to be close because I think Tennessee can get the Patriots to run for their money, but I don't think they can steal the deal. Alright, let's move on to Buffalo at Houston. Buffalo, they were consistent throughout the whole season. Josh Allen, he is really showing what he can do at quarterback, and the Buffalo's defense played just like I thought they were. They were one of the best defenses in the league. Buffalo definitely deserved that wildcard spot. And Houston was kind of up and down. There were moments when you said, wow, they are a really good team, and then moments when you go, wait, is this the same team we saw earlier? However, they still have Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. That offense is still really good. The problem is the defense, it's not really where you thought it would be. They're in the 20s when it comes to defense. It's kind of tough to win with a defense like that. However, they are in the playoffs. They did win their division. Now, who wins this game? Well, I'm going to go Buffalo over Houston. The reason I'm going Buffalo over Houston is because of Buffalo's defense. I think they're going to find a way to shut down Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. I think Buffalo's offense is going to do enough against that defense to where Buffalo wins the game. Now let's move on to the divisional round. Alright, so with New England winning the wild card matchup, they get a matchup against KC. Now KC, Patrick Mahomes just picked up right where he left off. He had a terrific season. Missed a few games due to injury. That didn't really slow down KC. They still did a pretty good job in those few games that he missed. And the defense just got better as the year went on. I'm surprised just how good the defense was at the end of the year. So KC definitely deserved that first round bye. Definitely one of the most complete teams in the NFL, in my opinion, towards the end of the year. And you got to think about this. New England has to travel to Arrowhead. That is one of the toughest stadiums to play at. You're talking about the loudest stadium in the AFC. I don't know if New England can beat them in Arrowhead in a playoff game for the second year in a row. I got KC taking this one. Now, Buffalo gets a rematch against Baltimore in Baltimore. This one is going to be tough for Buffalo. It's another stadium that's very tough to play at. And when you talk about Baltimore, you have to talk about Lamar Jackson, this running game, and just how good they are. Probably the best running game you will ever see. That's just how good it's been. And the defense, just like KC, got better as the year went on. I do have Baltimore winning this one. There was a reason they were the number 1 seed. So we have KC against Baltimore in the AFC Championship game. What is this going to come down to? It's going to come down to which defense can get a stop. Which defense can do what against this offense. Probably going to be a high-scoring game, but if one of the defenses can get a key stop, that might be the difference in the game. And you know what? I'm actually going to go KC over Baltimore. Why? Well, KC's already beaten them twice with Lamar Jackson. They did it once the year before, and they did it once this year. I just trust KC more than I do Baltimore because they have beaten them with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, and they did that twice. So KC is the AFC representative at the Super Bowl. Now let's move on to the NFC. For the wild card matchup, we got Minnesota going up against New Orleans. For Minnesota, they were actually pretty consistent. The problem was they had a pretty easy schedule. They didn't really beat anybody of note. Didn't really have that big win that made you say, oh, that is a playoff team. But they are in the playoffs because they were pretty consistent as the year went on. It was just they had an easier schedule than most. And for New Orleans, after the heartbreak of the last 2 seasons, they really went out this year. And they did it without Drew Brees for 5 games. Without Brees for 5 games, they won all 5 of those games. Teddy Bridgewater did a great job filling in for Drew Brees when he was injured with that thumb. And then when Brees came back, New Orleans did not miss a beat. They went 13-3 and just missed down on a first-round bye. New Orleans definitely deserved to be in the playoffs because they were so consistent throughout the year, and they did it without Brees. Just goes to show you how good their team was. Now, the key to Minnesota, they have to find a way to stop Michael Thomas, and nobody's been able to stop Michael Thomas all year. But if they can find a way to do it, they may have a chance. However, I got New Orleans winning this one. So New Orleans takes the wild card round against Minnesota. Now, the other matchup, it's Seattle versus Philadelphia. And let me start with Philadelphia. Kind of struggled at the beginning of the year. Looked like they were going to be dead on arrival. The Cowboys were off to that hot start, and then the Cowboys faltered, and the Eagles got hot. And think about what the Eagles are doing. They have done this without a lot of their starters at the skill positions. A lot of their starters have been out with injury. So Carson Wentz has been doing this with a bunch of backups. I think that just goes to show how good of a quarterback Carson Wentz is. If he can get the Eagles to the playoffs on a team that is filled with backups, that's pretty amazing. And then with Seattle, you knew it was going to come down to Seattle and San Francisco at the beginning of the year. But really, what the difference was Seattle at home. They were not a very good home team. They only won half of the games they played at home. That is not the Seattle team that we know. But they did go 7-1 on the road. Now, this is where it's tough. Philadelphia has one of the best home field advantages. Those fans in Philly are crazy about the Eagles. And you're talking that the Seahawks have to go there on an East Coast trip and play this game. I just don't see the Seahawks getting it done. I have Philadelphia winning at home. Alright, so in the divisional round, we have New Orleans going up against Green Bay. And Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur just made it work. The offense was really good. Aaron Rodgers was really good. However, there were times when you saw the Packers and you went, wait a minute, they're struggling a bit. But they did win 13 games and they did get the first round bye. However, you could say they were a little up and down because there were moments when they were great and moments when you said, can this team really compete for a Super Bowl? I think that's what it's going to come down to. Can Green Bay maintain a level of where you can say they are Super Bowl contenders? And I just trust New Orleans more than I do Green Bay. I think New Orleans is a more complete team, and I think that's the difference in the game. So New Orleans advances to the NFC Championship game over Green Bay. In the other divisional matchup, we got Philadelphia against San Francisco. And with San Francisco, they were one of the more consistent teams in the NFL along with Baltimore. No matter who the opponent was, they were in it till the very end. In those losses that they had, they lost all those games by 1 score. That was it. Just goes to show you how good this team really was. And it starts with their front 7 on defense. They may have the best front 7 I have ever seen. It's been a really good. It was really good. And I could not believe how good it really was. Now on offense, Jimmy Garoppolo, he did struggle a little bit. You can say, well, didn't really have the season that we thought he was going to have. But you know what? George Kittle is the best tight end in the NFL. And it's not even close. He's basically unguardable. So you know what? I'm going to go San Francisco at home over Philadelphia. So in the NFC Championship game, it's going to be New Orleans against San Francisco. And this is a rematch because these two teams played in the regular season. And you know what? San Francisco comes out on top again. I think they are the more complete team than New Orleans. I think San Francisco, with that defense, Kittle and Garoppolo stepping up when he needs to, I think they get to the Super Bowl. So it's KC against San Francisco in the Super Bowl, and KC wins the Super Bowl. So my Super Bowl prediction is KC. Alright guys, that's my prediction for how the 2019 playoffs are going to go. We'll see if I'm right, and I'll see you next time.